And it's the Body Shop Boxing Show on Twilight Talk Radio. I'm your host, Brian Murphy, back for another episode. We're here every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Pacific Time. We're coming off a great show from last week. We had Olympic gold medalist Henry Tillman on the line. Offered us lots of good insight into the sport. Henry Tillman was a heavyweight, so we talked a lot about the heavyweight division and gave us his thoughts and opinions on who's going to be the next big deal and who's going to be the man. He's also the trainer of Charles Martin, the current IBF heavyweight champion of the world. Actually, Charles Martin was supposed to be a guest on our show tonight, but unfortunately he is not able to make it due to his traveling schedule. Just a reminder that this is a call-in show, so if you want to call in and you have a question, comment, thoughts, ideas, 909-726-7226. We're going to have several things to talk about this evening. First off, the finalization of the Keith Thurman and Sean Porter fight. It's going to be real interesting. Sean Porter and Keith Thurman, two of my favorite boxers and definitely two of my favorite welterweights. They're going to go at it. It's going to be interesting. We'll talk a little bit about that. The newly minted signing of Canelo Alvarez versus Amir Khan. Man, that's going to be a really interesting fight. We'll definitely jump into that a little bit. Jean Pascal getting beat up very badly versus Sergey Kovalev. Not only talking about him getting beat up, but was the stoppage too early? A lot of people have ideas about, actually, was it too late in this case? Sometimes is it too early? In this case, was the stoppage too late? He was really taking a beating. Freddie Roach was kind of going back and forth on whether or not he should stop the fight. He had to ask John Pascal to, if he was okay several times. He really wanted to stop it in the sixth. When he went out for the seventh, he told the ref, hey, keep an eye on my guy, which is something that's not very common, but he asked him to keep an eye on him. And we have Triple G versus Dominic Wade. That's going to be really interesting. It's a mandatory, so Dominic Wade is a young up and coming fighter. He is undefeated, but he is going against Triple G, who's definitely one of the best in the sport. Kind of question why he's going to be taking this fight so early on, because it's just not very likely that he'll win. So we'll be talking about that for sure. But we're going to be talking about some emails too. Got some several emails from fans who wrote in. So let's first and foremost get into one from Donald Wumbold. His question is, what will the new T-Mobile Arena in Vegas, how will it impact other venues in Las Vegas or on the West Coast? That's going to be interesting. Obviously Las Vegas has been a huge fight hub for many years. And I think that, of course, most of the stuff has been at the MGM Grand, and this is the new arena there. So we'll see how that works out. Of course, on the West Coast, we have the StubHub Center, where several fights big fights have taken place at. You also have the Staples Center, home of the Los Angeles Lakers and LA Clippers and LA Kings. Also, you have the Forum, where other fights big fights took place during the 80s and during the 90s, and they shut down for a little while. And now, over the past year or so, they've had some really big fights. Juan Manuel Marquez had a big fight there not too long ago. So I think it's gonna add another dimension to boxing. Another arena, another iconic place soon to be. Everybody's guess is that Floyd Mayweather will open that place up and kind of baptize it, if you will. I really can see that, possibly against Manny Pacquiao once Manny Pacquiao fights Timothy Bradley, which I think he'll win. It's gonna be interesting to see how the T-Mobile Arena makes out. I'm sure that they're gonna have all the big fights just like Caesar's Palace did and the other arenas in the MGM Grand. So I think it's no doubt gonna be big. I don't think it's gonna impact the West Coast too much. It may draw a few fights away initially. I'm sure some of the younger fighters initially going to say, hey, I want to fight in the T-Mobile Arena because it's a big draw. And, of course, it is in Vegas. But I think that for sure the West Coast will still get its fair share of fights. People really like fighting in the outdoor venue of StubHub. It's a great facility. It's really perfect for boxing. It really works out. It's actually used, many people may not know this, but if you don't, it's used as a tennis court. It's actually a tennis venue. But they rearrange it obviously for a boxing match. But it just works out perfect in terms of the size of the venue and in terms of how it's kind of a perfect square already because it's used as a for tennis. So it works out really well, and it's a really nice venue. So that's what I think. His other question was, how does the Canelo versus Khan fight affect possible matches in the future? Does it open the landscape for other possible outside-the-box type fights? That's a really good question because this fight is definitely outside the box. Canelo Alvarez probably will walk into the ring weighing about 175 pounds. And Amir Khan, not too long ago, was fighting at junior welterweight, 140 pounds. So that's definitely outside the box. I know his past few fights have definitely been at 147 welterweight. But I would have to say that this does open the door for possible outside-the-box fights, no doubt about it. The weight classes have seemed to be somewhat diminished. You know, Canelo, the whole thing about this is also a catch weight. Canelo is demanding it to be a middleweight fight at 155 pounds, excuse me. And that's going to be interesting because Amir Khan is going to have to put on weight, and even if he puts on weight, he's still going to be considerably lighter than Canelo Alvarez. He's going to weigh in the day before, probably right at 155, and he's going to walk in, 20 pounds heavier at about 175. He's going to rehydrate to that. Canelo is also just naturally bigger, even if he was weighing 155 pounds on fight night. He's still so much naturally bigger than Amir Khan. It's just really difficult to see Amir Khan having any type of advantage over Canelo other than the speed. We all know about Amir Khan's hand speed. We know he's one of the fastest boxers in the sport without question. He's very fun to watch. I like Amir Khan, but yeah, I think he's just not going to be able to overcome Canelo's power. I think Canelo's going to be able to walk him down. I think he's going to be able to physically bully him. I don't really see him being victorious in this fight. Again, I like Khan, but in his hand speed, he's fun to watch. I actually take my hat off to him for taking the fight. You know, he doesn't have to take this fight. He begged Floyd Mayweather to fight him, and that didn't work out. You know, and he was begging him to fight him when he was not retired, and then when he did retire, he still was begging him to fight him, and that didn't work out. And then he went after Manny Pacquiao. That didn't work out either, and we all know it's no secret that Amir Khan's really looking for a big payday, and this certainly will be it. No doubt that this will be a pay-per-view fight. I don't see Canelo Alvarez fighting anything other than pay-per-view until the end of his career at this point. I mean, he's a big enough draw. He's proven to Golden Boy and HBO that he's definitely can get the numbers and can get 500,000 views at minimum. So, and I think this will be also the same, minimum of 500,000 views. So I'm really looking forward to it. I do favor Canelo Alvarez. It took me a minute to get to Canelo Alvarez is the real deal, but after his last fight with Miguel Cotto, I really think he's the real deal. I actually pegged Miguel Cotto to win that fight, and Canelo won hands down. So that's my choice. I do think that it will certainly open up a new arena, if you will, for outside the box fights coming up. People in different weight classes kind of coming down or coming up, putting on weight, taking off weight. I think that it's definitely, and it's a good thing too because it makes it more exciting. You know, Floyd Mayweather said he wouldn't fight Triple G because he was too big, but now we see that that's all an excuse because somebody in Amir Khan's size has agreed to fight Canelo Alvarez. So pretty happy about that. All right, we're going to take a quick little break, and we're going to come back to more emails and more discussion. The Body Shop Boxing Show. See you in a minute.
James had trouble seeing. He thought he was tired. His leg went numb. He lost his balance and couldn't talk. He couldn't call for help. James had a stroke. If anyone had recognized the signs and called 911, his life might be different. Remember these warning signs: sudden numbness or weakness in the face, arm, or leg, trouble seeing, sudden confusion or inability to speak. If you suspect a stroke, call 911 immediately because time lost is brain lost. Visit strokeassociation.org.
Come on, Bobby. Use a little elbow grease and make this car really shine.
Dad, I am.
Now use the hose to really blast the underside.
Okay, Dad.
Hey, not me.
Oops. Wow, Dad. Look at how greasy the water is. And it's all going into the street.
That's why there are storm drains, I guess.
Actually, storm drains were never intended as catch-alls. Detergents, fertilizers, pesticides, motor oil, even pet waste wash into our storm drains and go untreated right into our streams, rivers, ponds, and lakes. That's the water we drink, swim in, boat on, and enjoy. We can prevent stormwater pollution. Learn what you can do. Check the web at thinkbluemaine.org. That's thinkbluemaine.org. Think Blue. In Maine, clean water starts with you. Brought to you by Maine DEP, U.S. EPA Clean Water Act, and Think Blue Maine Partners.
And welcome back to the Body Shop Boxing Show on Twilight Talk Radio. I'm your host, Brian Murphy. This is a call-in show. If you'd like to call in and have a comment or a question, you can do so at 909-726-7226. That's 909-726-7226. So let's jump into some more emails here. We have one from Kathleen Sharp. She was actually on the show a few weeks ago, offered some great insight. She wants to know, what is your opinion on the Canelo-Khan fight in terms of the catch weight? Well, I talked about a little bit about that in the previous email. I know that a lot of people don't like catch weights, and I can understand why. You know, the weight class is the weight class, and if you're a middleweight, fight at middleweight. If you're a welterweight, fight at welterweight, and I perfectly get that. I guess if this is the only way that a fight can be made, I guess I can't be too mad at it because we seem to have an issue getting fights made that we really like. You know, I can't see Canelo Khan being made any other way with you know, if it wasn't a catch weight. Khan, there's no way going to agree to do 160. So you know, it's going to be interesting. With this holds, I think Canelo was actually starting a new trend with this. His last 2 or 3 fights have been at a catch weight, you know, and I know a lot of people aren't happy about it. Miguel Cotto did the catch weight thing for a while, 155, and it might be a trend. And unfortunately, if that's what it takes to get the big fights. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not necessarily saying that I'm in favor of it, but I do know that I'm in favor of seeing fights that I want to see. I'm in favor of seeing exciting fights. I'm in favor of seeing fights that are pretty much 50-50 as you go into it. I'm in favor of seeing fights against two people that are truly competitive and deserve the fights. And without the catch weights, it seems like, you know, a lot of times you're getting an A-level fighter against a C-level fighter, and somebody like Al Heyman, you know, the PBC is building that up to be a huge, great fight, you know, basically to people who don't know better. But to the fans, you know, it's not that good of a thing to continue to have fights put out there that are not real fights, that are not competitive fights, and you're only doing it in the weight class is one of the things that's stopping you. Of course, that's not the only thing. It's the Cold War that we have against the promoters. That's the bigger issue. But if you can sign these fights and it is a catch weight, I guess I won't complain too much because it means that I get to watch an exciting fight. But if we can find a way to keep things in the weight class, that would be preferable. But if not, then we'll just have to, I guess, unfortunately, take it the way it is. Kathleen's second question is, I would also like to know what you think about a champion like Sergey Kovalev making the statements that he made about Pascal after he beat him. He stated that he could have finished him off in the 3rd round, but wanted to hurt and punish him. Considering that Kovalev has already killed somebody in the ring before, I found this statement to be very awful. I understand what you're saying, Kathleen. I guess I'm still a little confused over Jean Pascal bringing up the whole racist thing. You know, Sergey Kovalev's trainer is black, and aside from that, I don't know of anything that Kovalev has said that would be considered racist. And not only do I not know of it, nobody else seems to know of it. And I kind of have a problem with Jean Pascal saying, you know, that he's a racist just kind of randomly and arbitrarily. You know, it doesn't seem like there was a really good reason for him to say that. I still can't figure out. I don't know what the statement was or what made Jean Pascal say that. What was the trigger? If Kovalev did in fact say something that was racist, then I guess he's justified. But I have no idea what that was. I haven't heard anything. Haven't read anything. And you know, I try my best to keep abreast of the sport and know what's going on. But I haven't heard anything about it. Does that mean that he deserved punishment? I don't know if it means he deserved punishment, but you know, this is boxing, and you know, it's also known as the hurt game. And when you get into the ring, you know that you're facing somebody who's there to inflict damage on you, who's there to inflict harm on you. And somebody like Sergey Kovalev, you know, you purposely ticked him off, and you know how dangerous of a man he is, and yet you made these statements anyways. Kovalev is just a nasty character, Pascal knew that going into it, but Kovalev is a nasty character. Unfortunately, as you stated, he did fight somebody before who didn't survive. I think it was 3 days later he ended up passing away. He went into a coma and passed away. But yeah, that's definitely unfortunate, and not anything I like to see. As big of a fan as I am with boxing, I don't like to see anybody hurt. Actually, after the Deontay Wilder fight, what he did to Spiska, I had a hard time sleeping that night. I didn't want anything to happen to that guy. I didn't know anything about him. I wasn't too familiar with Spiska before that, and wasn't a fan or anything. But I certainly didn't want the guy to die. So that's not nothing that I don't think any fan of the sport wants. But this was a different situation. Pascal was talking a lot of trash, and Kovalev isn't the first person to toy around. Triple G actually did that with Willie Monroe Jr. He said that he did it. This is a speculation. Triple G admitted after the fight that he was playing around with Willie Monroe Jr. for a few rounds. He wanted to give the fans a show, and I guess wording it that way makes it feel a little bit better. It's kind of a different cushion to say, hey, I want to give the fans the show, and I don't want it to end too early because the fans bought tickets and they came out, and I take a guy out in 3 rounds. That's not much of entertainment for the fans. So he wanted to prolong the fight, but in essence, it's the exact same thing. He's hurting the guy. The longer the fight goes on, he's hurting the guy. And Willie Monroe Jr. Literally had to quit. He was on his feet, and he told the referee that he didn't want to go on anymore because he was just getting beat up. And so in this situation with Kovalev, I don't think that he was wrong in what he did. This is boxing, and this is a sport where it is the hurt game. It is a sport where once you step into the ring, you know in the back of your mind, hey, things can go wrong. And he's not necessarily under an obligation to take him out in the 3rd round. If he wants to prolong the fight, I guess that's part of his deal. And I was listening to a sports radio show earlier today, Billy C. Boxing. I listen to that every day, and he was saying, that I don't think that Billy C. was saying that I don't think Pascal should take any blame for this. I don't think that he should be persecuted, if you will, or people in the media saying negative things about him. He felt that this is all part of the sport of boxing, and that should be the case. I still would like to know, though, what did Kovalev say or do, or what was his thing that made Pascal feel that he was racist? I think that's a pretty heavy charge to levy at somebody. And I think it goes a little bit past trash talking, So maybe one day that'll be revealed what he said or what he did to egg Pascal on. So so to answer your question, I know that you do feel slightly different. I know that you feel that Kovalev was maybe out of line, or maybe he went too far and shouldn't have did that. But I guess I feel a little bit differently about it. But hey, thanks for the question, and we are going to take another break. We'll be back in a few. Body Shop Boxing.
Combined Insurance is actively seeking recent college graduates for exciting roles within our sales organization. This isn't just any sales job. This is a full-time position with benefits, comprehensive training and support, as well as some customer leads. We believe this isn't just a job. This is your opportunity for a successful career with the leading supplemental insurance provider. We offer 2 career paths, sales and sales management. Use your strengths, education, and our unparalleled training program to set your trajectory for success. Call Monet Swan at 310-955-8577 for this unique opportunity. Call now. Let's face it, unexpected accidents and illnesses happen. And when they do, it can leave you and your family vulnerable to out-of-pocket expenses that standard insurance just doesn't cover. Combined supplemental insurance benefits reduce the worry about how you will pay for those expenses. With less worry, it's easier for you to focus on getting well. We pay cash directly to you. Call Monet Swan at 310-955-8577 8577 to start your coverage today. Again, Monet Swan at 310-955-8577 and start your coverage today.
And welcome back to the Body Shop Boxing Show on Twilight Talk Radio. I'm your host, Brian Murphy. This is a call-in show. If you want to call in and have any comments, any questions, or just talk about anything boxing related, feel free to do so at 909-726-7226. That's 909-726-7226. In addition, let's get a little social media going on here. If you want to chime in during the show on my Facebook page, it is Body Shop Boxing Blog. That's on Facebook, Body Shop Boxing Blog. And on Twitter, if you want to send me some tweets during the show, that's Body Shop Boxing 2. That's Body Shop Boxing numerical 2 on Twitter. So you can send that out during the show. All right, let's hop into a few more emails here. We got one from my buddy Lee Thornton up in Canada. It says, hey, Brian, what fights are you most looking forward to in 2016 that has been announced? When I first read this, I thought it has not been announced. So I kind of formulated my answer to be for the ones that hasn't been announced is definitely Sergey Kovalev versus Andre Ward. I think that is going to be an incredible fight. I am really, really looking forward to that fight. I think that it's going to be really good. My thoughts on it is this. If Andre Ward has two big tune-up fights, if you will, before Sergey Kovalev, I know he has one against a medium-level opponent. If he has another fight against a really tough contender after this one he has coming up, I think he has a really legitimate chance at beating Sergey Kovalev. Andre Ward is just a superb boxer. He doesn't have a whole lot of flaws. He doesn't have any flaws, really. He's extremely defensively responsible. He has the ability to make the other guy miss. He has the ability basically to do anything, to exploit the other person, the other fighter. He has, I think he's also a harder hitter. I've said many times before, Andre Ward is probably the hardest hitting non-power puncher there is. A lot of people say he doesn't have a lot of power. But after the fights, he stopped a lot of people. He stops a lot of people. He stopped Chad Dawson, and Chad Dawson was actually scheduled to win that fight, and he was the much bigger fighter coming into that fight. I think Andre Ward definitely hits very hard. Doesn't hit harder than Kovalev, but he hits very hard, and I think that he definitely has a good chance at winning if he has two solid tune-up fights. If he were to just have this one that he has next coming up, I can't recall the guy's name that he's fighting. Maybe to come to me, I can't recall the guy's name. But whoever that is, I don't think he has a good chance of beating Sergey Kovalev if he fights only this guy and then goes directly into that fight. I think that it'll be just a little bit too much for him. So we'll see what happens on that end. The other fights that I'm looking forward to the most is Sean Porter versus Keith Thurman. That one's already signed, sealed, and delivered. It's going to be an excellent fight. Keith Thurman, in his last three fights, he's kind of switched up his game a lot. He's kind of taken on the Floyd Mayweather mentality of boxing, which is, hit and not be hit, which makes sense. You want to have a long-lasting career, and then after your career is over, you want to be able to talk and form a sentence. So it's a good approach. The only drawback is it's not a fan-friendly style, and that's one of the biggest debates in boxing right now. A lot of boxers are taking on that mindset and that mentality. Just be defensively responsible. Don't take a lot of punishment. But the flip side is some of your fights are kind of boring. And Keith Thurman, his knockout ratio, he did knock out his last 2 or 3 opponents. Before that he had knocked out several consistently. So his style is really different, and I think that's going to affect him. Sean Porter, he's a bulldog. He's a strong guy. He's a solid guy. He's a very come forward guy. He's a very offensive-minded guy. Keith Thurman used to be offensive-minded, and he has that ability to be. I just don't know which Keith Thurman is going to show up against Sean Porter that night, simply because who knows? I mean, he may be just more defensive-minded the way he was against Robert Guerrero. People were expecting him to knock out Robert Guerrero. That fight was a little bit boring. the fight he had against Lundy. Lundy's, he's 40-something years old and not a well-known fighter, and he had a little bit of difficulty against him. He did make it through, and he definitely won, but he had a little bit of difficulty against him, which was surprising. He had a very odd, kind of jerky style. So Keith Thurman against Sean Porter, everybody so far kind of has this fight 50-50. I definitely have it 50-50. It's definitely hard to say who's going to win this fight. I don't know who is, but I like them both. They're definitely two of my favorite fighters. Keith Thurman's a good guy. He gives some of the best interviews in boxing too. I'm sure you guys have heard him interviewed before. He gives really good interviews, very articulate, very cerebral guy. Has a lot of interest outside of boxing. I even read an article on him lately that talked about his top 5 favorite books in boxing. You know, that was pretty interesting, and a lot of them were really kind of out there. So he's an interesting guy. Sean Porter, God, just what a good dude, level-headed guy. You know, boxing's full of hotheads. You know, and Sean Porter's a very level-headed guy. Has a great relationship with his father. Very religious, Christian, very devout. And, not only in his words, but in his actions. And very hard worker, too. You know, I follow his page a lot, and he posts a lot of really inspiring things. But more importantly, aside from them outside the ring, these are both really good fighters. Sean Porter's not nearly as technical as Keith Thurman is, but his power is there. Again, he's a bulldog. He's very, very strong. He's very, very come forward. Keith Thurman used to be that way. I don't know which Keith Thurman's going to show up when they fight each other, so we'll have to see about that. So I have that fight 50-50 as of now, and that's definitely a fight that I'm looking forward to in 2016. Another fight I would be looking forward to in 2016, if it was actually possible, is Kovalov against Adonis Stevenson. And, Stevenson jumped into the ring after the fight, and, it was all for show, and it was all nonsense, and Freddie Roach said they were hugging backstage and this, that, and another. It was just a big show. But I really like to see it. I would like to see, because Adonis Stevenson, even though I don't like him, it's not because he's not a good fighter. I mean, he definitely has boxing skill. Emmanuel Stewart did a good job with him. He has great boxing skill, and he's talented, and he's very powerful, and he's not a fraud, but he's definitely ducking some of the better people out there, and it's annoying me. It's definitely annoying me. But I think Kovalov versus Adonis Stevenson would be a great matchup. Probably not going to happen. Probably not going to happen. But if it does, that would be great. So we're going to get ready to jump into another commercial break. We'll come back and talk about Triple G and his next fight. Body Shop Boxing Show.
Are you a military veteran? Your military experience and the values instilled in you during your service time are tangible traits we at Combined Insurance value. Pride, integrity, respect. They're the foundation of our armed services and are found in veterans like yourself. This is one of many reasons why military personnel are such a good fit for our organization. Consider a position with Combined Insurance. If you're interested, please call Monet Swan at 310-955-8577 for all of the information needed to start the process. We thank you for your service to our country and look forward to speaking to you about this exciting career opportunity.
It's November, and that means election month. Current and future election hopefuls are prepping speeches and rallying every resource available for the big win. Even if you aren't running for office, you can win big too by planning for retirement. When you decide to retire, the easiest and most convenient way to do it is right from the comfort of your home or office computer. Go to www.socialsecurity.gov, where you can apply for retirement benefits in as little as 15 minutes. In most cases, there are no forms to sign or documents to send. After you submit your electronic application, you're done. You can use My Social Security to obtain a copy of your Social Security statement, to check your earnings record and see estimates of the retirement, disability, and survivor benefits you and your family may receive. No matter who you are voting for this November, you should cast a ballot for yourself and elect to retire or plan for retirement online.
Do you know that children under the age of 5 are twice as likely as the rest of us to die in a home fire? Children depend on their parents and other caregivers to protect them. Here's what you can do to keep children safe from home fires. Keep matches and lighters out of their reach, maintain a working smoke alarm on every level of your home, and practice a fire escape plan. Remember, get out and stay out. For more fire safety information, visit www.usfaparents.gov. This message is brought to you by the United States Fire Administration, your local fire department, and this radio station.
And welcome back to the Body Shop Boxing Show on Twilight Talk Radio. I'm your host, Brian Murphy. We're here every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Pacific Time. This is a call-in show. Love to have some callers call in, give their thoughts, questions. If you'd like to do so, you can do so at 909-726-7226. That's 909-726-7226. We have a question from Alex Sandino. She wants to know, what does Khan have to do in order to have a chance at beating Canelo? Good question. He needs to box. he needs to really put on his A game and box. He needs to. Khan has a definite tendency to become irresponsible in the ring. He has a tendency to become, and when I say irresponsible, lack of focus, becoming unfocused, starting off. Anybody could start off the first 1 to 2 rounds, even if you're not a professional. You can start off the first 1 or 2 rounds maintaining a strategy, maintaining a fight plan. Anybody could do that, but it's deep into the 8th round, deep into the 9th round when things aren't going your way, if you're able to maintain your head. And Khan in a few fights, particularly with Danny Garcia, when he got knocked out, he wasn't able to do that, and he's done that in other fights. And Chris Algieri, he won that fight, but he always kind of comes unwound. He just kind of doesn't seem to keep it completely together. But he needs to utilize his speed without question. He needs to move around the ring a lot. He needs to use his footwork. He has great footwork, but he really, really needs to move around the ring. He needs to circle a lot. Canelo's footwork has improved a lot. He's naturally not that gifted at footwork, but he's definitely worked at it in his last several fight shows that he's put in a lot of work to have better head movement, better body movement, to be a little more elusive, to have better footwork. He's better at cutting off the ring. Each fight, Canelo really improves in things that you see in his previous fight, like, he really needs to work on this, or he really needs to work on that. You see in his next fight that he really went in the gym and he really worked on it. And so if a Canelo shows up, even improved, more so from his last fight with Miguel Cotto, Khan's in a lot of trouble. He's in a lot of trouble. So I think he needs to box. And from a pure standpoint, he really needs to box. He needs to use his speed, cut off the ring, and just constantly keep moving, because Canelo is going to use his size. He's probably, like I said earlier tonight, he's probably going to walk into that ring with about a 20-pound, not probably, I'm pretty sure he's going to walk into that ring with a 20-pound weight advantage. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll see what happens with that. I, for one, will be purchasing it. I'm assuming it's going to be its normal $60, so I'll be coming up out of pocket $60 to watch that fight. I don't even know if it'll go to the distance. If it gets stopped in the 8th or 9th round, I really wouldn't be that surprised. But even in order for Khan to last that long, the man definitely has to not make any mistakes, be pretty perfect. But I still think at some point Canelo is going to walk him down, because he's going to have that weight advantage, and also his own boxing advantage. Not just his weight. Canelo can box. He has skills. He's not a gimmick. He's not a fraud. He's the real deal. And it took a while for me to get there with Canelo. It really did. I always felt like, man, there's always something missing from Canelo. I just was never I was never completely sold on him, but I am now. I really think that Canelo Alvarez is the real deal, and I think he's going to have the advantage over Amir Khan. And we had one last question from actually not one last question, but we were going to talk about the Triple G fight with versus Dominic Wade. Triple G is in an interesting situation. You have some people online, and I see it all the time. Other shows that I listen to, stuff that I read, tweets and all this nonsense. Triple G is ducking this person. Triple G is ducking that person. He's scared. He doesn't want to fight. He hasn't fought anybody. You don't really have to be a boxing fan to know what's going on here, or a true fan. Common sense just tells you he can't find the fights. That's all there is to it. The people don't want to fight him. The middleweight division just came more into prominence in terms of more bigger names out there. Billy Joe Saunders, Andy Lee. I mean, they've been there before, but their names have gotten a lot bigger over the past few months and more into the mix with fighting him. But before that, he wasn't fighting them because those names weren't necessarily names that were being thrown around. You also have Chris Eubanks Jr. His name has been thrown around for the past few months, but that wasn't the case a year ago. So, I think Triple G takes a lot of heat, a lot of unnecessary heat for not fighting top-tier fighters, but is absolutely, positively not his fault at all. And I think most people know that. I think most people who have common sense and follow the sport realize, hey, this man, he fights who he can. He's willing to step into the ring. To say he's scared is ridiculous. The boxing ability that he has, his all-round just ability and his freakish power. It makes no sense to say that he's scared. It makes no sense to say that he's ducking someone. I love to see him, have a fight against Danny Jacobs, even a Peter Quellen, even though, Peter Quellen just got knocked out in the first round by Danny Jacobs. I would love to see that fight, though, against either one of them. But Andy Lee or Billy Joe Saunders or Chris Eubanks, even though Billy Joe Saunders beat Chris Eubanks, I would like to see Chris Eubanks. He's got a nice style, not a style good enough to beat him, but I think it'd be a fun fight to watch, and like to see him fight Triple G and probably end in the fourth round, but still it'd be a fight. And what's interesting about that is, even Billy Joe Saunders said, and this is a big quote that's been going around in boxing for the past few months. Billy Joe Saunders said, Triple G can beat me and Chris Eubanks in the same night. Now, that says a lot. When a professional boxer who just beat another high-level, A-level professional boxer says that, hey, this guy can beat me and another, pretty much A-level fighter on the same night, yeah, that says a lot, and for people to say that he's ducking anybody is just complete nonsense. But he is fighting Dominic Wade next. I'm not super familiar with this guy. He's young, and it's hard to say why this person took this fight. You either take it because, hey, I have the opportunity to upset the world and shake up the world and show the world, as Muhammad Ali said, and of course, if he were to win by some off chance, boy, what would that do for his career? He would be the next big thing, and it would create huge paydays for him, and it would thrust his name into every boxing conversation that there is. So that risk is to have that happen is a good risk. The downfall is you take a loss early on in your career. But I guess to some extent it's a win-win situation because Dominic Wade, if he wins or loses against Triple G, it's still to Triple G, and that's the big thing. You have a win against Triple G, that's great. You have a loss against Triple G, well, it's not considered that bad of a thing because you fought a very high-level elite fighter and won in the world. So that's my thoughts on Triple G and the Dominic Wade fight. Can't say how interesting it'll be because I don't know Dominic Wade's style, but, it being that he doesn't have nearly as much experience, nor has he fought the level of opposition that Triple G has, we can assume what's gonna happen there. So, all right, that's gonna do it for this week's edition of the Body Shop Boxing Show on Twilight Talk Radio. Again, I'm your host, Brian Murphy. And for future reference, I'll give you that call-in number once again, 909-726-7226. That's 909-726-7226. And we'll get into a little social media here. If you want to email me any questions, you could do so at boxing@murphygrouppr.com. That's boxing@murphygrouppr.com. And my blog, www.bodyshopboxing.wordpress.com. That's www.bodyshopboxing.wordpress.com. And on Twitter, we got Body Shop Boxing 2. That's Body Shop Boxing 2. And on Facebook, it's Body Shop Boxing Blog. So hit me up online. Thanks for tuning in. The Body Shop Boxing Show. Hey, long live boxing, everyone. Thanks a lot.